Everyone deserves a safe and stable home. It's something that benefits all of us. I'm not here with any hidden motive, only a genuine desire to help those who are struggling. The British royal family has weathered plenty of storms, scandals, affairs, accusations, and even abdications. But nothing could have prepared them for the controversy that erupted not from behind palace walls, but from the words of a child. It all started during what was supposed to be a peaceful family event. The gardens were glowing in the afternoon sun. Children's laughter echoed through the royal grounds, and for a brief moment, things felt calm. But that calm quickly unraveled, giving way to one of the most intense internal rifts in recent memory. A clash that placed family loyalty at odds with royal duty and unexpectedly set Princess Charlotte against Camilla's granddaughter. According to insiders, the tension unfolded at a private gathering of senior royals and their children. At some point during the celebration, Camilla's granddaughter reportedly singled out Charlotte, who's growing into her role as the daughter of the future monarch. It started with some offhanded comments and cutting remarks. But this wasn't just playful teasing. One staffer described the behavior as intentional and hurtful, the kind of words meant to cause pain, not jokes. Soon after, Charlotte was seen crying, holding tightly to her mother's hand, visibly shaken and red-faced. Kate, known for fiercely protecting her children from public scrutiny and internal royal drama, appeared deeply disturbed by what had happened. But it was Prince William's response that truly shook the institution. In a bold move, he revoked the honorary privileges previously extended to Camilla's granddaughter, a gesture that had never been questioned before. She would no longer be allowed access to royal estates, no longer receive invitations to official events, and no longer be acknowledged within the inner royal circle. The message couldn't have been clearer. Protect the children, no matter who it offends. The move was bold, without precedent, and deeply personal. Camilla was reportedly livid, seeing it not only as a slight but as a rejection of her family by someone she once believed respected her position. King Charles found himself caught in the middle, torn between loyalty to his wife and support for his son. He chose not to intervene, worried that adding to the conflict would only further destabilize the monarchy. But for the public, the situation struck a different chord. It wasn't about hierarchy or titles. It was about standing up for a child. And for many watching, William and Kate did exactly what any loving parent would. But before we continue, we'd love for you to hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying this video. If you just did, we truly appreciate it. Now, let's get back to the main content. They stood by their daughter with unwavering resolve. No apologies, no hesitation. And just like that, what began as a careless comment among children turned into a turning point for the royal family, one that could shift the balance of influence within the House of Windsor. It was meant to be a relaxed, sunlit afternoon in the private gardens of Windsor Castle, a rare break from the spotlight, away from the cameras, press, and constant demands of royal duty. By all accounts, it was a casual event, a simple family gathering arranged by King Charles. No formal titles, no grand attire, just blankets on the grass, garden games, and a few glasses of elderflower spritz being passed around by cheerful staff, all under the quiet cover of neatly trimmed hedges. Still, old rivalries quietly lingered, and unresolved tensions hovered just beneath the surface. It was in this idyllic setting, among croquet mallets and plates of cucumber sandwiches, that everything changed. An ordinary afternoon became something far more serious. At the center of it all were the young royals. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis played near the flower beds under the watchful eyes of their mother, Kate, and a few discreet aides. Camilla's granddaughters, especially Lola Parker Bowles and Eliza Lopes, were also present. Since Camilla became queen consort, her grandchildren, though not officially royal, had been gradually brought into royal public life. Their appearance at the 2023 coronation had drawn attention, particularly Eliza, who had returned to the public eye after being a bridesmaid at William and Kate's wedding in 2011. Many believed Camilla was eager to include her own family in royal traditions. But according to sources, behind the formal smiles and group photos, subtle friction had begun to develop between the families, and more recently, between the children themselves. That day, Charlotte, now 9 years old and known for her confidence, quick humor, and striking resemblance to her late grandmother, Princess Diana, was happily chatting and playing with the other children. Everything seemed light-hearted at first, but then something shifted. Witnesses claim that one of Camilla's granddaughters, believed to be Eliza, made a hurtful comment directed at Charlotte, possibly mocking the way she bowed to adults or criticizing her outfit, which had been thoughtfully chosen by Kate. Another source recalled a particularly biting remark, "Your mom just acts like a queen. Mine really is one." What might have been brushed off as immature boasting took a turn into disrespect. A member of staff described Charlotte as visibly heartbroken. The typically composed and confident young princess was seen running into her mother's arms in tears. Kate gently pulled Charlotte aside, comforting her with a deep instinctive protectiveness that was impossible to ignore. But she wasn't the only one who saw what had happened. Prince William, who had been in conversation with King Charles nearby, immediately stopped speaking when he noticed Charlotte clinging to her mother. What followed was a brief but intense exchange between William and Kate, quiet but charged. Then, with his jaw set and posture stiff, William walked directly to the staff overseeing the children and demanded a full explanation of what had taken place. According to those present, the mood shifted instantly. Camilla reportedly looked away, claiming she hadn't witnessed anything, while others stood awkwardly, unsure of how to respond. The happy noise that had filled the garden just moments before had completely died out. One aide later remarked, "You could feel the change in the air. Everyone understood that something serious had just gone down." William didn't need to say much. His reaction made it crystal clear. He wasn't about to overlook this. And what many didn't realize at the time was that this incident wasn't isolated. At past family events, there had been minor jabs and quiet tension, comments from Camilla's grandchildren poking fun at how Kate and William managed their children's media exposure or mocking Kate's structured parenting style. Until now, it had all been brushed aside. But this was different. Charlotte had been visibly upset, and the insult had crossed a personal line. That was enough for William. His patience had run out. What began as simmering tension quietly buried beneath polite smiles had now sparked something much bigger. And that single moment in the garden might well mark the beginning of a deeper divide within the royal family. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, is often seen as the picture of grace, calm, elegant, and poised even under intense scrutiny. But behind the polished exterior is a mother willing to stand her ground when it comes to protecting her children. And on that warm afternoon in Windsor, when Charlotte ran to her in distress, something inside her shifted. According to those close to her, the moment Charlotte buried her face in her mother's arms, Kate's entire presence changed. The composed royal figure vanished, and what remained was a fiercely protective mom, unwilling to dismiss or excuse what had just taken place. Her anger was undeniable. One palace aide remarked, "I've never seen her like that." It wasn't just about what was said, it was the attitude behind it, the entitlement, and the unsettling sense that someone from Camilla's inner circle thought they could speak to Charlotte that way without facing any consequences. Kate didn't make a scene. She simply and firmly led her daughter away from the gathering, guiding her back into the castle with a quiet authority that left no room for questions. Those close to the situation believe a tense confrontation followed behind closed doors, catching even seasoned palace staff off guard. Kate, deeply upset, requested a private moment with Camilla, somewhere away from the children and prying ears. Camilla, apparently not fully grasping the weight of the situation, reportedly tried to brush it off, laughing slightly and calling it just kids being kids. She added, in what some perceived as a dismissive tone, "We can't be too sensitive about little playground dramas." That comment changed everything. According to two aides familiar with what happened, Kate's demeanor turned cold and composed, but unmistakably furious. She made it clear this wasn't the first time there had been subtle jabs from Camilla's grandchildren, and that this latest episode had crossed a line. She warned Camilla that this wasn't just a personal slight, it was a matter of principle. "This isn't only about Charlotte," she reportedly said. "It's about respect, and your family clearly doesn't understand what that means." And this time, Kate wasn't standing alone. Princess Anne, who had long kept her thoughts to herself on the growing involvement of Camilla's family in royal affairs, quietly backed Kate. Anne was heard telling her aides, "You protect your children, title or no title. No child should be treated like that." It was a quiet but pointed rebuke, aimed squarely at Camilla's unwillingness to take accountability. Kate didn't raise her voice. She didn't make a public statement or go to the press. True to her character, she moved with precision, making sure her stance was heard by the people who mattered: her husband, the palace leadership, and the king himself. And the message was unmistakable. If no one else will stand up for my daughter, I will, and I will remember who stayed silent. This wasn't just an emotional response. It was a clear signal. Inside the palace, Kate has long been known for her calm strength. But that day, staff saw another side of her. A fiercely protective mother who wasn't afraid to draw the line. And with that moment, any lingering notion that Camilla's grandchildren could share equal footing with the children of the future king and queen began to fade. Kate wasn't simply reacting to an insult. She was defining boundaries, asserting her place in the institution, and setting the tone for the future. Prince William, always calculated and strategic, has mastered the art of diplomacy, knowing when to stay quiet, when to engage, and always keeping his eye on the long-term future of the crown. But when it came to his children, especially Charlotte, all of that careful restraint took a back seat. The morning after the garden incident, with whispers still circulating about what had unfolded, William acted swiftly. Behind closed doors at Kensington Palace, he called an unscheduled meeting with his top aides. No press, no ceremony. Just a private conversation that would quietly mark a dramatic shift in the royal family's internal dynamics. Sources close to the palace say Prince William was calm, but unmistakably firm. The kind of presence that left no room for debate. He laid out exactly what had happened, point by point, with total clarity, and didn't hold back. His frustration wasn't limited to how Charlotte had been treated. It extended to the broader issue of Camilla's family steadily gaining influence and visibility within the royal sphere, enjoying the perks of proximity without ever carrying the responsibilities. Then came the unexpected moment. William gave a direct instruction. Camilla's granddaughter, believed to be Eliza Lopes, was to be stripped of all honorary royal privileges. She would no longer appear on guest lists for royal ceremonies. Her access to palace grounds was to be revoked, and she would no longer be included in any events involving the royal children. Additionally, all informal references to her as a junior royal in internal documents or staff communications were to be removed immediately. The reaction in the room was stunned silence. It wasn't just bold, it was unprecedented. William made it clear that this wasn't a personal vendetta against a child. It was about upholding the integrity of the royal family. Being adjacent to royalty didn't make one part of it. He reportedly said, "You don't become royalty by marriage, and certainly not by entitlement. You earn it, through duty and service." He closed the conversation with a firm declaration, one that quickly echoed through palace corridors. "No one mistreats my daughter and continues to be part of this institution." At first, the palace tried to keep the decision quiet, but royal reporters, always alert to signs of tension, quickly caught wind of the story. Within 2 days, the news was out. Tabloids ran headline after headline. William steps in after Charlotte incident. Future king draws a line. Camilla's family sidelined. Royal rift explodes behind closed doors. Public reaction was swift and overwhelmingly supportive. Social media lit up with praise. Good for William. That's how you defend your child. She's not a queen. Why was she treated like one? Kate is raising a future queen, and William just proved he's raising her right. Even longtime monarchy loyalists who usually avoid internal palace drama agreed this was a necessary move. William had drawn a clear boundary, reminding everyone that titles, roles, and respect in the royal institution aren't handed out like party favors. They're earned. Meanwhile, Camilla was furious. To her, this wasn't just a protective response from a father. It felt like a calculated move against her family. She saw it as a public slap, not just a private disagreement. But with public opinion heavily in William's favor, there was little she could do. As for King Charles, he remained silent. Once again, choosing not to intervene, unwilling to confront the son who would eventually inherit both his crown and perhaps his influence. William's response to what seemed like a simple family dispute had, in reality, reshaped the lines of power. He made it clear that access to the monarchy isn't automatic. It must be deserved. And in doing so, he sent a powerful message about the kind of legacy he wants to build, one worthy of his daughter's future. Behind closed doors, Camilla saw it differently. To her, this wasn't about family values or protecting a child. It felt like betrayal, a deliberate blow aimed at her and everything she'd tried to build. For the first time since her controversial rise to queen consort, Camilla felt powerless. According to palace insiders, she erupted in fury upon learning of Prince William's decision to revoke her granddaughter's privileges. Staff at Clarence House described the atmosphere as charged and volatile. One aide even likened it to witnessing someone come to terms with the fact that their influence had just slipped through their fingers. Camilla reportedly stormed through the residence, demanding explanations and accusing everyone, including senior aides and even Charles, of betraying her. From her perspective, her family had been gradually and carefully brought into the royal fold, included at events, photographed alongside royalty, treated with a quiet respect typically reserved for those close to the throne. And just like that, with a single decision from William, it was all gone. She's said to have confronted Charles immediately, insisting that he issue a public statement walking back the decision. But Charles, always cautious and politically minded, refused. "What's done is done," he reportedly told her. "It's already drawing too much attention. Getting involved now would only add fuel to the fire." That response broke her. According to one royal insider, Camilla became emotional, feeling not just overruled by William, but abandoned by the man who once stood against the world to be with her. His silence, in the moment she needed him most, felt like the deepest betrayal of all. But her frustration wasn't solely aimed at Charles. Camilla, it said, believed Kate was the driving force behind the scenes. She reportedly told a confidant, "She's fooling everyone, all smiles in public, but she'll take down anyone who threatens her position." And just like that, long-buried tension between the two women reignited. Though they had maintained a polished public image of unity, many within the palace had always sensed the quiet strain. Camilla, once the outsider who fought her way to the crown, and Kate, graceful and composed, next in line to be queen, with the unwavering support of the public. Camilla now found herself increasingly isolated. Her granddaughter was no longer welcome in the royal inner circle. Her influence was fading fast. Former allies in the press who once championed her stayed silent. Even longtime staff began to distance themselves, sensing that her authority had peaked. Whispers began to spread that Camilla was considering stepping back from public life, citing health issues and emotional strain. But those close to palace operations suspected it was more of a strategic move to generate sympathy. Still, the public wasn't buying it. Most saw right through the narrative. This wasn't a mistake, they said. It was accountability. And what about William? He didn't back down. He didn't offer explanations. He simply carried on with his royal responsibilities as usual. Because for him, this wasn't about Camilla. It wasn't even really about Eliza. It was about Charlotte. And in standing up for his daughter, he exposed what many now see as Camilla's critical misjudgment, the belief that her family could share the privileges of royalty without truly being part of it. For the first time in her royal life, Camilla wasn't the one pulling strings. She was the one being sidelined. As the garden incident spilled beyond palace walls and hit the front pages, the British public, often unpredictable in their reactions to royal drama, responded with rare unity. Support for Charlotte surged in unexpected places: schoolyards, coffee shops, talk shows, and across every corner of social media. The story took on a life of its own, one that no palace advisor could contain or spin. Charlotte, the poised young girl often said to have her grandmother Diana's eyes, became the face of innocence wronged, and the country rallied behind her. Almost overnight, hashtags like #ProtectCharlotte, #TeamCharlotte, and #RoyalPrivilege began trending across platforms like X, TikTok, and Instagram. Viral videos popped up comparing Charlotte's grace and composure during public appearances with what many viewed as the undeserved spotlight placed on Camilla's granddaughter. Royal watchers and fans began sharing clips, placing William and Kate's children side by side with Camilla's extended family, often highlighting the difference in how they carried themselves. The message was loud and clear. Charlotte is the daughter of a future queen, carrying forward Diana's legacy. One tweet summed up the public mood. Who does Camilla's granddaughter think she is? The backlash came fast, and it was ruthless. Comment sections under royal posts turned into war zones. Even some of Camilla's longtime supporters, those who had cautiously accepted her role in the monarchy, began to express doubt. Questions that had once been whispered were now being openly asked. Why was Camilla's family present at official events? Why were non-royals enjoying access to royal privileges? And perhaps the most damaging, why had they been shielded for so long? Polls soon reflected the shift. A Snap survey taken just days after the incident showed that 83% of respondents backed Prince William's move to remove Eliza's honorary privileges. Even more telling, nearly 70% of those surveyed felt that access to royal roles and events should be limited to direct descendants of the crown. For Camilla's side of the family, it was a public image crisis. The protection they once enjoyed, bolstered by Camilla's title and Charles's affection, began to erode. Their presence, once seen as a symbol of modern inclusion, now looked like unwarranted favoritism. Eliza, who had once been positioned as a potential face of a more blended modern royal family, had, fairly or not, become a symbol of everything people disliked about perceived royal nepotism. In contrast, Kate's silence spoke volumes. She made no public statements, gave no interviews, and avoided subtle digs. She simply returned to her royal duties, visiting children's hospices, supporting mothers, and promoting mental health initiatives. At each event, the cameras captured the same thing: her composure, her gentle reassurances to Charlotte, and a smile that was gracious but measured. Kate didn't need to make a public statement. The point had already been made. The public was firmly on her side. Even well-known figures began weighing in. Talk show hosts, radio personalities, and parenting experts all spoke up in support of Charlotte's right to be protected. On one popular evening panel, a commentator put it plainly, "If your child is being mistreated, you step in. William did what any father would. The difference is, he did it in the public eye, and for that, people respect him even more." Behind the scenes, palace staff began to notice subtle shifts. Some aides who had once worked loyally within Camilla's household were quietly requesting transfers to Kensington Palace. Meanwhile, reporters who had previously framed Camilla in a favorable light were now turning their attention to stories about Kate's poise and William's leadership. What started as a private family matter had become something far larger, a defining moment. The message was unmistakable. Royal status isn't something you gain through proximity, and entitlement has no place in the future of the monarchy. And when the storm finally passed, one thing was crystal clear. Princess Charlotte, though hurt, had been fiercely defended, not just by her parents, but by an entire nation. In standing up for her, the public exposed the shaky foundation beneath Camilla's carefully managed image. In the long, storied drama of the British royal family, few events have felt more personal, more revealing, or more deeply felt than this one. A child was hurt at what should have been a simple family event, and that single moment triggered something much larger than anyone could have expected. Now, as the palace moves forward, Princess Charlotte remains at the center of it all, not because she wanted to be, but because what happened to her struck a chord with millions. She came away not with titles or attention, but with something much deeper, the backing of a country that saw in her something worth standing up for. This was never really about status or ceremonial privilege. It was about something far more important: dignity, protection, and the values the royal family claims to uphold. Prince William's clear, unapologetic response sent a signal. The days of quietly tolerating favoritism or looking the other way are over. Kate, composed, steady, and resolute, showed the world that she's far more than just a royal title. She's the steady force behind the monarchy's transformation. At the same time, the image Camilla spent years carefully building is starting to fall apart. Her path from controversial figure to queen consort always depended on public patience and an unspoken hope that her family could quietly blend into the royal framework. That belief no longer holds. Her granddaughter's removal from royal circles wasn't simply disciplinary, it was symbolic. It drew a clear line between those who contribute with dignity and service and those who simply benefit from royal proximity. For once, the institution didn't look away. It took a firm stand and followed through. King Charles may appear impartial, but his silence speaks volumes. While he still wears the crown, the loyalty of the people is shifting, and with each challenge that William and Kate weather, their influence only grows. The takeaway is clear, both behind palace walls and among the public. Bloodlines alone are no longer enough. In today's monarchy, trust, integrity, and purpose carry more weight than ever before. Princess Charlotte, with her quiet strength and surprising maturity, has become an unexpected symbol of what lies ahead. And Camilla, once confident in the place she carved out for her family, is now seeing it start to fall away under public pressure and consequence. The monarchy is changing, and the next generation has made it known. Access to privilege must be earned, not assumed.